Hello class, welcome to Pre-Algebra Lesson 1-4, which is all about subtracting integers. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to subtract integers. So let's talk through our first example, subtracting positive integers. Okay, so in this case, we have two different examples here. We have 15 minus 6 and then 2 minus 9. Notice that this very first example here on the left, 15 minus 6, this looks pretty similar to stuff that you have done in the past, where you have your biggest number first, and then you're subtracting a smaller number from it. When this happens, where you have big minus small, it is going to be just like what you're used to. So I'm going to just rewrite it in the form that I know most of you are more comfortable with, and that is when you stack it. So 15 minus 6, you just subtract like normal. So 15 minus 6, that is 9. Okay, so my answer for this very first example on the page is 9. I could also represent it with counters. Like I could get 15 of these, and then I could grab 6 of these, and then see how many I would have left after canceling them. That's a totally acceptable way to do this. I showed you how to do it on the last lesson, so I'm not going to do it right now just to save time, make this a little shorter. But I will still show you how to use the number line. So let's say that I'm just going to put 0 right here, so then that's 1, 2, 3, then with the negatives, I'm going to just write every other number just because save room, save some space, so that way it's not all mashed together. Okay, so if I were to use a number line to solve 2 minus 9, I would start at that 2, and then remember that when you see subtraction, that means that you're going to go to the left. So I'm going to now go left for 9 counts. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this number right here, this is my final answer, and I see that that would be a -7. So my answer is going to be a -7 for this problem. Let's say you don't want to use a number line though. How could you solve this problem? Well, you could use those 3 steps that I shared with you yesterday, where we were adding integers together, where I said identify biggest digit. So in this case, that would be 9. And then you want to identify, is it positive or negative? And the 9, since it has this subtraction symbol right in front of it, that's going to be considered a negative. And then your third step is just to take your biggest minus your smallest. So 9 minus 2, that's 7. And then your final answer is where you write the number you got in step 3, and then you put the sign that you got in step 2. So in this case, -7. So that's another way that you can solve this, okay? It's really up to you. Everyone thinks a little bit differently, and that's something that's so great. So if you have even another way that you solve this problem where you're consistently getting the same answer that I'm putting on the screen, go for it. Use that system. Use what works for you, okay? All right. Question number 1, this is for you. A football team gains 3 yards on the first down. On the second down, they lose 8 yards. What is the total change in yards after the first 2 downs? So go ahead, maybe reread this problem, set up how you could solve it, and then come up with a final answer. Good luck. Okay, for this problem, hopefully you did something where you started at 3 and subtracted that 8 to represent that loss. And when you did that, you ended up at -5 yards. So they had a 5-yard loss is what we would actually say in regards to football. If you have any questions about this problem, please be sure to ask for help, whether that's me or a friend, just ask. All right, example 2. Ian's football team lost 2 yards on a running play. So right away, I'm just going to jot down that loss of 2 yards, and I represent that with a -2. Okay, so Ian's football team lost 2 yards on a running play. Then they received a penalty that resulted in a 5-yard loss. So 5-yard loss would be represented with a -5, right? What is the team's total change in yards? So again, if I wanted, I could use a number line and I could count. And this can be really nice at first just to get used to doing subtraction into the negatives. Once you start working with bigger numbers, number line just isn't as reasonable to use. It's just your numbers get bigger and it just would take too much time. But to build the foundation, feel free to use the number line, okay? So I start at -2, and then I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the left, which that is at -7. So the total change in yards is a 7-yard loss. Or you could write it as just -7 yards, whatever you prefer, okay? Both are correct. Now, why don't you go ahead and try this one on your own. Good luck. For this problem, hopefully you ended up at a +5. If we do -5 plus 10, we end up at a +5. If you have questions on how to get that answer, please ask for some help. I'm happy to help you. Let's move on to example 3. Find the difference. So remember, difference is another word for subtraction. And looking at that first problem over on the left, I see I have -7 minus a -8. This is something that is a little bit different than the last couple of problems we've done. And the reason it's different is, notice I have a minus and then I have another minus. When this happens, this is actually a special kind of math rule. What happens is this first subtraction symbol tells us we're going to the left. And I don't think I really explained that yesterday, like why that means you're going to the left. And the reason that minus means you're going to the left is because it's a change in direction from going in the positives, okay? So it's a subtraction symbol just means you change direction. So this very first subtraction symbol tells us that we're going to go to the left. But then if you have a second subtraction symbol, that means that you have to change directions again. So instead of going left, now we're going to go to the right 8. So I would take this -7, and instead of going this direction for 8, I would go this direction for 8. So another way of writing it is -7 plus 8. And I would have to move my drawings if I wanted to use this as a number line to count. So then I would have something that would look like this. I start at -7, but this time I'm going to go 8 in the 8 to the right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which is a +1. Okay, so anytime you have a situation where it's minus a negative, it can be rewritten as plus because it means that you are going towards the positive direction again. Okay, so then let's apply that same idea to this problem over here on the right. I have -15, And notice I have minus a negative. There's no number in between those two minuses. That's when we can change it to a plus. So it would become negative 15 plus 12. And a common mistake I see students make is they might think that it's negative 15 plus a negative 12, but that is not the case. That those two negatives get put together to form that positive. Okay, so then if I have negative 15 plus 12, I would end up at a negative, because 15 is the bigger number and it's negative. And then 15 minus 12 is 3. So my answer is a negative 3. If you have questions about that, please ask for some help, okay? I am here to help you. Now, you can see this one says question 3, subtract negative integers. Normally when it's question, I make you pause and answer all of the different problems. However, just to save a little bit of time, I'm going to do 3 of them with you and then have you do 3 of them on your own, okay? So notice with this first one, I have minus and or a negative and a minus, right? So they have essentially the same sign, right? Whenever that happens, I didn't mention this earlier, but it's just like what I said yesterday. When the signs are the same, you could rewrite it like this, just like we did yesterday, and said, hey, the signs are the same. I know my answer is going to be negative. What's 4 plus 6? That's 10. My answer is a negative 10. Okay? Then for letter B, I see I have minus a negative with no number in between. So that becomes a plus. So I have negative 6 plus 4. Now this time I see I have 1 negative, 1 positive. So I say, which number's bigger? In this case, that's the 6. So I know it's going to be negative because my bigger number is negative. And then what's 6 minus 4? That is 2. My answer is going to be negative 2. Letter C, again, I have minus a negative, so I can put those together, and I'm left with 4 plus 6, which that's just 2 positive numbers being added together. That becomes 10. Okay, so now take a moment, solve D, E, and F, and then you'll have a chance to check your answers with mine. Good luck. Okay, for these problems, hopefully you ended up with 2 for letter D, negative 2 for letter E, and 2 for letter F. If you have questions about that, please reach out for some help. I'm happy to help you. And then this very last page, it's very large and spaced out, so I'm going to just slowly kind of scroll through everything. I added a key concept page, and you can see I have subtracting integers with the same sign. I have a little example there. I have subtracting integers with different signs. You can see I have a little example there. And then I also have subtracting negative integers. So when you have those two negatives put together, you rewrite with a plus. Okay? If you have questions about anything from this video, please ask for some help. I am happy to help you, and I hope you have a great day.